Today I'm finally taking a look at the DC Multiverse Justice League Task Force Superman. This wave might just be my biggest DC action figure disappointment of the year. Stick around to find out why and how I think it could have been better, but never fear, I'm still going to be trying out head swaps. Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation. Just a heads up, I'm still sick, so if I sound funnier than usual, that's why. Starting with the packaging, and this might be the most colorful DC Multiverse box of all. While it's not unheard of for McFarlane to do wraparound spines for special waves, this one includes the other corner. Full colorful blast up top with a very vibrant spine with graphics for the Justice League, and specifically that it's Justice League Task Force. Down here we see we're collecting to build Darkseid, and flipping around back, this might be my favorite Build-A-Figure wave image. That's because not only does it have the Build-A-Figure character, but all the other characters as well. We also see them again down here. And then over here is a key of the parts you'll need and how to build them. It's a shame that nothing on the box indicates that these figures are supposed to be based off of a video game. More on that in the categories to come. Even so, this might just be my favorite DC Multiverse box. So for packaging, I'm giving this Superman 5 points. Moving on to presentation, and Superman stands at 7¼ inches, or 18½ centimeters, and is near complete reuse of Crisis on Infinite Earths. Unfortunately, the devil's in the details, and let's just say this figure's pretty bedeviled. With nothing on the box letting you know this is based on a video game, average consumers aren't going to pick this up. Ideally, these should have been painted normally, with the video game paint job as the platinum versions, and maybe a little blurb up here saying it's inspired by the retro game. That way you could mix and match them with the rest of your collection, and then fans of the games could track down the pixelated platinums to have a digital version of the set as well. On that note, I also think this could have been 2 waves. Swap out one of the characters from this wave, my vote would go for Aquaman, only because we need a classic comic Wally more than another Arthur. Replace him with Wonder Woman to get her back out in circulation for those who missed out on the collector edition. Then Wave 2 could have had Aquaman and Green Arrow, along with finally giving us a DC Multiverse Cheetah, maybe a Player 2 palette swap of Batman or Superman, and then the Build-A-Figure could have been Despero, who is another character we really need for the shelf. As is, I highly doubt this is going to get a second wave, and even if it does, a lot of people aren't going to buy it because of this paint job. The sad thing is, as paint jobs go, it's pretty well done. To me, this is the same kind of thing as cell shading, so it's not something that I personally like, but it did take a lot of effort, and I do think that should be noted. And hey, this one can do double duty with the Sunsoft Death and Return of Superman game. I do agree with Robo's observation that it's weird that they didn't paint the face to look like a video game, and by not doing that, it just looks like they're wearing video game themed costumes, but the head swapper part of me is appreciative. I also think it should be noted that if you wipe away the lipstick and the pixelation, there's actually a pretty good figure under there. Leastways, that's what all the customs tell me. Sculpt-wise, I also think this head's pretty good. Comparing it to the artwork on that iconic JLA #1 cover, and yeah, I think it's a winner. One thing I would have liked to have seen is the S on the back of the cape. If I decide to customize them, I may swap it out with an extra one of the Action Comics 1000 Walmart version. Unfortunately, even a wired cape can't save this Superman. It's neat as a concept, but feels half done and just looks kind of ugly. For presentation, I'm giving this Superman 2 points. Moving on to Poseability, and it's been a minute since we've seen what the Crisis on Infinite Earth's body can do. One thing he can't do on account of the mullet is look up. Fortunately, down's no problem. He also gets a bit of tilt, but the hair does still get in the way, but no trouble looking side to side. Moving on down, Superman can raise his arms just over 90 degrees, and thanks to the cloth goods cape has complete rotation and a nice wibbly wobbly rotator cuff. Moving on down, he's got bicep swivels, the pinniest of pinned double jointed elbows with a very deep bend, and thankfully flesh tone wrist balls that can swivel and hinge either up and down or side to side. Shifting to Superman's painted on abs, he's got a diaphragm joint and a dumbbell waist. He can arch back this far, which for a flying character is perfect. Here's how that looks. For context, here he is standing straight, but then we've got that DC Multiverse hunch forward. No wonder he has to paint the abs on. After all, he can't crunch. Pretty good side-to-side tilt though, and of course twist. Below the 16-bit belt, and Superman has the standard McFarlane hips. He can kick this high, which is pretty impressive, and bend back this far. As is often the case, he has a perfect split. Not as much twist as I'd like to see in the hip, but it's there. Moving on down though, the bend's pretty good on those double-jointed knees. He's also got toe articulation and ankle balls that can swivel, hinge, and like my enthusiasm for this wave from when I first heard about it to when I actually saw it, pivot. Held back only by the mullet and lack of ab crunch. For Poseability, I'm giving this Superman 4 points. Moving on to Playability, and this is where things really do start to fall apart. Of course, he's got a trading card and a figure stand, but Great Caesar's ghost, just look at all the info. We've got his powers, his first appearance, his alter egos, his base of operation, and his job. This is the kind of thing I've been wanting to see all along. Good on you, McFarlane. Hoping for more of this in the future. In terms of character-specific accessories, he comes with these 2 speed effects. One of them is on the curvy side, and seems to fit pretty well on his fist. So well, in fact, that when you take it off, it takes the whole hand with it. You can also use it on the left hand, but this one I'm a little bit more confused by. Looking inside, it has a very specific indent. In fact, the only place it naturally fits is over the toe. If I'm correct, that creates a kicking effect, which is actually pretty clever. This being a build-a-wave, he comes with the legs of Darkseid. Those also have shading, and are the same as the classic styled Megafig. See? I told you this was going to double as a build-a-figure. The thing is, a lot of collectors didn't really like the cape or the brighter color scheme of that Megafig, so again, if they just painted this line normally, people could have had a choice. As it stands, if you prefer a darker Darkseid, you're going to have to wipe all that paint off. But Playability is more than trading cards and speed effects. It's also about how well your figure plays with others. Unfortunately, and not to beat a dead horse, but because of that paint job, the only figures he can play with are other figures in this wave. That being the case, and just for a sense of scale, here he is with Hush and Nightfall versions of Batman, the Collector Edition Wonder Woman, Flashpoint and Rebirth versions of Barry Allen, Endless Winter and JLA versions of Aquaman, and then for Green Lantern, here's the Endless Winter John Stewart and the Silver Age Hal Jordan, and the Gold Label Kyle Rayner. For some super support, and here's the equally vexing Supergirl figure, and since this is long-haired Superman, here's Superboy, and Steel with his droopy hammer. And then for just a few villains, here's Lex Luthor in his battlesuit, Rebirth and Ed McGuinness versions of Bizarro, Page Punchers and Injustice 2 Brainiac, General Zod, and the DC Rebirth Cyborg Superman. For a relative scale comparison, here's Superman with Pizza Spidey and the Spectacular Spider-Man, and as always, here he is with Stealth Iron Man. Now, for what you've all been waiting so patiently for, head swaps. For Action Comics 1000, I'm going to go with the new Gold Label version, mainly because the skin tones aren't going to match with any version you pick, and this new Walmart body is more widely available. I will warn that this head is only just sitting on top, because if you click him in place, this happens. Other way around, this neck is too long, but with some cutting and some repainting, this would be a pretty good match. Next up is our only other official mullet Superman. The skin tones are a pretty good match here. It really just comes down to how you feel about these proportions, but once again, you're gonna need a longer peg. Conversely, this head is modeled after Action Comics 1000, so once again, you'll either need a shorter peg or to shave the neck down. Of course, there are lots of figures using this body, but if you're gonna use the Action Comics 1 head on anybody, just save it for Crisis on Infinite Earths. In fact, with your blessing, I think I'm just gonna keep it like this from now on. If you want to do a swap with Hush though, the longer the neck peg, the better. Obviously, these skin tones don't match. Same thing other way around. But again, this head doesn't look too bad on this body. That said, for your consideration, may I suggest Rebirth Superman from the Ultraman 2-pack. May I also suggest stealing the trunks from the Doomsday 2-pack. The skin tone is a perfect match. You'll also get 6 additional hand options. Honestly, this is the way to go. I'm getting a kick out of the accessories, and of course a wired cape is always a win to me, but while I appreciate what McFarlane was going for, not being able to mix and match him with the rest of your collection makes this Superman feel pretty non-essential. For playability, I'm giving Superman 3 points. This leaves us with nothing left to discuss but the price. As an action figure content creator with an emphasis on head swaps, I felt like I had to look at him, but unless you really like this aesthetic or plan on doing some customizing of your own, at $24.99 I think you can pass this Superman by. Objectively, I do still think it's a well-made product, so for price I'm giving Superman 4 points, averaging out to a better than okay total of 3.4 out of 5. If you're concerned, I have not forgotten about the new Henry Cavill, and take a look at what just arrived today. Point is, there's plenty of Kryptonian content coming. For more Superman videos right now, though, check out one of these, and until next time, play nice and have fun.